Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, the Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, we are going to be taking the first look at the Tier 10 Italian auto-reloading tank destroyer, the Minotauro. In today's video, I'll be talking about its statistics, DPM, and as well, showcasing the armor and a little bit of gameplay that I was able to acquire on the test server of really everything you need to know about this vehicle. I can tell you right out of the bat that this is literally a free version of the Object 268 version 4. It's just a different variant of it. I think it's a really unique design. I'm not sure if it's going to be good for the game. To me, I feel like this is a toxic type of tank and playstyle, but I'll break into that a little bit more at the end. Let's start off specifically with its statistics. With the gun. Now, the gun has terrible dispersion, 0.398, and terrible aiming time. It also has pretty poor premium pen at 352, so overall, it's not really good on any of the values. Even DPM, it's got 2300 if you're shooting it as a single shot with your third shell, because it's a 9.05 second reload. Then you gotta add in the 3.53 seconds of intraclip time, which is gonna round you up to around 12.5 something seconds, and then if you do that, you're gonna get like 4.7 rounds a minute, multiply that by 490, and at the end of the day, you've got around 2300 DPM with this tank, and that's if you're using it as the most effective DPM you can get. So why is the gun so bad, you might be asking, for a tank destroyer? And that's because the armor is just so darn good. The armor on this tank frontally is just about impenetrable. In fact, this here is the armor profile. Now, as you can see on Armor Inspector, it says it only has 7 degrees of gun depression. However, it appears that Wargaming, as you'll read right here on my mouse, has changed it actually to 10 degrees of gun depression. So, yeah, pretty dang strong, if I do say so. Let's actually take a look at what this armor would actually be like with 10 degrees. So this is the Minotauro on flat ground. You can see basically nothing's penning it with standard ammo. It's actually dumb. I mean, there's some weak spots here and there, but for the most part, you're not penning this vehicle with standard ammunition. So when you're aiming at this vehicle, already instantly load to premium. Does not matter what type of tank you're in, even if you're in a Hori, I would just suggest to load premium because you're not going to pen it with standard. And if you load premium, this is what the vehicle looks like on flat ground. So it's got some really, really thick turret edges. Upper plate, you're probably not going to pen for the most part, but the lower plate is a penetration, and as well the turret cheeks right next to the gun are also penetrations. However, that is when you're not using gun depression. This is what it looks like with 7 degrees of gun depression. So you can imagine if we add like an extra 2 and we get it to like 10 degrees of gun depression like this, how impossible it is to penetrate this entire vehicle. I mean, the armor is literally just a big ol' ripe tomato. Now, yes, there is a weak spot here. People have pointed this out to me on live stream, and I checked the weak spot. It's not nearly as big as you think. It's tiny. Good luck hitting that turret ring at any distance. If this vehicle is more than 20 meters away from you, the chances of hitting that turret ring are going to be just about nothing. It's going to be almost impossible. When it comes to side armor on this vehicle, awful. When it comes to rear armor on this vehicle, awful. You can HE it with almost all vehicles as it is. So basically, the Minotauro is a vehicle that sacrifices all types of everything just for that frontal armor. Its gun doesn't have great DPM, it doesn't have great accuracy, not even pen. Its mobility is trash. I mean, its top speed and power to weight are okay, 15.3, and at top speed of 34, but look at its reverse, 12? Man, yeah, you're not going to be reversing much in this vehicle. If you put yourself too aggressive, this isn't like in a 268 version 4, where you can go at reverse at 20, you're going to get stuck in the front line and you're going to die there. So, really, all you are is a super strong fortress of armor with a gun that has the ability to deal 1500 damage 7 seconds after the first shot is fired. Now, in some ways, that's actually really good, but you do got to remember that your first shell, which is the first one you load into the clip, has a 21.73 second reload, which is really, really, really bad. So, really, that shell, I like to call it a reserve shell. In other words, you're not going to shoot that unless you're forced to. So let's actually take a look at some gameplay here I have in the Minotauro, see how it stacks up against some other Minotauros. Now, I want to point out that Wargaming kind of made a bit of a mistake, as you can see, when it comes to the textures. For example, the fire. Yeah, good job, Wargaming. So, unfortunately, they kind of messed up the textures when it comes to open test. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, everything works fine. The tank statistically seems all good. So, yeah, we're going to be able to still drive it around. So, in front of us, we got an STB. And as I said, with standard ammo, can't pen me. And neither with premium can he. And I should point out that any medium not running Cali, so if you're running rammer on any medium, you have 0 chance of penetrating the Minotauro. Now, one thing I should add is that there is a hatch. You can see right where that concept shot, just a little bit lower. It's actually kind of nice to have these little textures mess up because we can see the streaks. But this is a weak spot. I should point that out. So if we go back to the armor profile very briefly, we can see that it does have a hatch. I mean, it's a very small one, and hull down, even if you load heat, it's going to be very hard to hit, and it's over 300 thick, but it is a weak spot. I should point that out. So, you know, it's not impervious, but it's pretty darn impossible to pen. So at this point, we are using those 10 degrees of gun depression. We're impervious to the enemy, and we have a semi-traversable turret that goes 45 degrees to the left and 45 degrees to the right. And this, very simply put, is why I think that this tank has a bit of a toxic playstyle. The Object 268 version 4 has one major downside. Well, actually two. First of all, it doesn't have a turret, or at least a semi-traversable turret. But more specifically, the Object 268 version 4 does not have gun depression. It only has like 5-6 degrees. This tank not only has a turret, which can turn at a decent rate, but as well, it has also an auto-reloading gun, meaning that you really can't push on it. I mean, with that reserve shell, I always have 490 damage saved. I have no temptation to shoot it because I know that it's a 21-second reload. I could literally load in 2 shells for the amount of time I've done dealing damage with that 1 shell. So there's no point. So basically, you can't push this tank unless you want to lose 490 health. And at that point, you're basically just losing that engagement to begin with, especially because you're always firing heat. So sure, the DPM on this tank might not be good, but if you're always firing heat at it to pen it, your DPM, let's say in an IS-4, goes from 2400 down to like 1800, and that's if you're penning every shell. Not to mention, as I said before, this vehicle is a hull-down beast. So in most scenarios, you're just going to lose to this tank. I don't understand. And I talked about this on live stream. If you want to see like an hour and a half of me testing all the vehicles in the line, I don't see how most heavies are going to be able to counter this tank. People that are running tanks like the Concept, that don't have enough pen to cut through this thing frontally and are struggling even with heat, are just going to basically have no chance. And even tanks that can penetrate it, once this vehicle gets into a hull-down position and it's using its superior alpha over you, it's using its better standard pen over you, and the fact that it's got gun depression, I mean, we blocked 2,500 in this game and did 3,200. It's a pretty solid chunk we did there. And now I'm going to showcase a game where I was able to actually look at the armor profile. All the people in this game here were in a training room with me that were also part of Open Test that were able to join the room. So pretty sweet. And this game is going to more home in why the armor is stupid on this vehicle. Like really stupid. So let's skip ahead a bit until we actually, you know, get into the front line. So that's a Type 71. And I told the Type at like this point here, I said, you and me 1v1, and we'll see who wins. Because the Type has more hit points than me. And the Type is obviously a frontline heavy, like one of the strongest heavies. So let's see how it does. So he's moving, but we still penetrate him with a heat shell in the hatch. We don't get penned. Even though you can see he hit us like square right in the hatch, it didn't pen us. So I guess armor moment. So we're reloading here. And again, this Type really can't poke us that much because we have, you know, an extra shell. So we get another nice tap in, 490 damage. Then he doesn't realize that we have another shell ready because I waited for my second one. So we hit him again for another 500 damage there. And already the Type is down to 1,000 health. Pen me 0 times. I can just sit here. And this is where the armor is stupid. I'm in a tank destroyer that can virtually be not penetrated. And now I can literally just drive over the ridge and kill him. Now, obviously, not every game is like this. Not any game is like this. I mean, you'd probably be killed and punished for doing this in a normal pub game. But just think about this. Think about the fact that if this was an actual battle, let's say you're in Himmelsdorf, how are you going to counter this tank? Seriously, how are you going to counter it? If it just simply uses the gun depression, you're not going to beat it. So just to show the armor, this is what the Minotauro looks like right here. This is what it looks like when you load heat, or not heat, but when you just aim at it in general. Now I'm waiting for my third shell to load in, but remember I said that that turret ring is a weak spot? That is the size of the turret ring weak spot. Good luck hitting that. At a distance like this, the chance of hitting that weak spot is literally like slim to none. As I said, you're not going to hit that. Like, sure, you're going to see me try and aim in on these weak spots here. Aiming, and... I mean, yeah, you can hit it. I aimed in for a very long time and hit it there. But if you're smart, you just use the vehicle like this, and then you don't show the lower part of your turret. As you can very clearly see, you can still use the gun depression with this vehicle without showcasing the weak spot on the turret. So, if we go back to Armor Inspector here, basically all you're going to do is you're going to use your 10 degrees like this, and if we pull out my calculator, we're just going to do this, and there you go. Now the weak spot's gone. So you've got full gun depression, and you can't be shot in the weak spot. All that's left is this hatch up here. And as you can see, when we take a look at the armor, that hatch is, well, yeah, that's what it looks like. Oh, man. See, the problem I have with a tank like this is it basically creates a toxic environment where the only way to counter this vehicle is with mobility. Because how else are you supposed to counter this type of tank? It's just... It's stupid. I don't like the idea of this vehicle existing in Blitz because of the armor it carries, because of the just stupid playstyle it has. It's just really dumb in general. You can see we were all just kind of chilling at this point. I was just kind of mad at the armor of it. But I mean, it really is a stupid tank. This is AP ammo. Look at how up that lower plate is angled towards me, and I still can't pen it. You can see how mad I was there. I mean, it's just, the armor on this tank makes no sense, even when loading heat. Like, sure, the hatch is somewhat pennable, but you're, like, it's only a pen 50% of the time. You can see that time I shoot at it, and it doesn't pen. So it's stupid. This tank is stupid. And there you go, another non-pen. So, yeah, I personally think that the way Wargaming is releasing this tank into the game is a bit unfair. I think it's going to create a diversity between the difference of a tank destroyer and a heavy. Now, to be fair, I'd rather have a tank like this than another 183 added into the game. But, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it is when it's released. I think it's decently balanced. I feel like against mediums, it sucks, and against heavies, it's really strong. Kind of like the Object 268 version 4. So I guess we'll have to see. But I just don't like the idea of a tank that doesn't have weak spots frontally. I think that it should have a weak lower plate. If Wargaming just made the lower plate weaker and that you could pen it with standard ammo, it'd be fine. But I don't understand why you can't pen this vehicle in the lower plate with standard ammo. I mean, it literally has a lower plate. You can see it. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.